Cash was a dreamer. He spent his days gazing at the clouds, longing to touch the sky. Often he would lie in the grass, watching birds soar effortlessly above. He wished he could fly like them, free and unrestrained. Daydreaming about adventures in the sky, he imagined feeling the wind in his hair and the world spread out beneath him. In his heart, he knew he was meant to fly. Cash devoured books about airplanes and pilots. He studied their designs and learned about the history of flight. Painstakingly, he built model airplanes, assembling each piece with care. Then he would fly them in the park, imagining himself in the cockpit, soaring above the trees. One day, Cash's grandfather told him stories of legendary pilots and their daring feats. He spoke of Amelia Earhart and her solo flight across the Atlantic and described the Wright brothers' first successful flight at Kitty Hawk. Cash listened with wide-eyed wonder, his heart filled with longing and determination. These stories fueled Cash's dreams. He knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to fly. He just needed to find a way to make his dream a reality. One hot summer afternoon, Cash was exploring his grandfather's farm. He wandered into an old, dusty barn, its wooden beams creaking in the summer heat. The air was thick with the smell of hay and dust. As Cash ventured deeper into the barn, he noticed something unusual. A tarp, faded and torn, lay crumpled on the floor, partially hidden behind some old farm equipment. Curiosity got the better of him. He cautiously approached the tarp and pulled at its edge. As the tarp came away, Cash gasped in astonishment. Before him stood a sight that would change his life forever. It was a small vintage aircraft. Its sleek silver body gleamed in the shaft of sunlight that pierced through a hole in the barn roof. The aircraft had a single propeller and an open cockpit. It was an X-Air Falcon, a rare and beautiful machine. Discovering the X-Air Falcon in the barn ignited a spark in Cash. He ran back to the house, his heart pounding with excitement. He had to tell his parents about his incredible find. He knew they would be as excited as he was. Bursting into the kitchen where his mum and dad were having coffee, he told them about the plane, his words tumbling over each other in his eagerness. He pleaded with them, asking if he could learn to fly it. His parents, however, were not easily convinced. They were worried about their son's safety. His mum thought it was too dangerous, and his dad reminded him that flying was a serious responsibility. They wanted him to focus on his studies and other activities. Cash refused to let his dream die. He spent hours in the barn with the X-Air Falcon, cleaning and polishing it. He studied its every detail, memorizing the positions of the controls. He read the aircraft's manual from cover to cover, absorbing every bit of information he could find. He knew he had to prove to his parents that he was serious about flying. He showed them his dedication, talking to them about the safety precautions he would take. He even promised to keep up with his schoolwork. Finally, Cash's parents relented. They saw the burning passion in their son's eyes. They agreed to let him take flying lessons. They found an instructor at a small airfield nearby, a kind old pilot named Captain Ben. Section 5. Mastering the X-Air Falcon. Captain Ben was impressed by Cash's enthusiasm. He saw a spark in the young boy, a natural affinity for the sky. He agreed to take Cash under his wing. Captain Ben taught him the basics of flight. He explained the principles of lift and drag. He showed Cash how to control the aircraft's rudder, ailerons and elevators. Cash was a natural. He listened attentively to Captain Ben's instructions. He practiced diligently, repeating maneuvers until he mastered them. He learned how to take off, land and navigate the aircraft. He spent hours in the air with Captain Ben, his confidence growing with each passing flight. He learned about weather patterns and how they affected flight. He learned to read the sky, to understand the language of the clouds. He discovered the importance of pre-flight checks and meticulous attention to detail. Section 6. A blanket of fog. One day, after months of training, Cash and Captain Ben were returning from a routine training flight. They were approaching the airfield when a thick fog rolled in. Visibility dropped to almost zero. They were trapped in a blanket of white. Captain Ben remained calm. He told Cash to stay focused, to trust his instincts. He reminded him of the instrument training they had practiced. He guided Cash through the dense fog, his voice a reassuring presence in the cockpit. Cash felt a surge of fear. He had never flown in such conditions before. The world outside the cockpit had disappeared. He could only see a few feet ahead. The ground was invisible, swallowed by the thick fog. The only way out was to rely on his instruments and his training. Section 7. Trusting his instincts. Cash took a deep breath, calming his nerves. He focused on the instruments, their glowing dials, the only source of information in the white void. He remembered Captain Ben's words. He had to trust his training. He had to believe in himself. He carefully adjusted the controls, keeping the aircraft level. He checked the altimeter, making sure he was maintaining altitude. He monitored the airspeed indicator, ensuring he was flying at a safe speed. He fought the urge to panic. He knew that any sudden movements could be disastrous. He had to remain calm, focused, and in control. Section 8. Soaring above the clouds. Cash flew through the fog, guided by his instruments and Captain Ben's calm voice. Every fiber of his being was alert. His senses were heightened, his mind sharp and focused. After what seemed like an eternity, he saw a faint glimmer of light. The fog was thinning. He emerged from the white blanket into clear skies. Relief washed over him. He had done it. He had navigated through the fog and emerged safely on the other side. He landed the X-Air Falcon smoothly on the runway, his heart pounding with adrenaline and triumph. He had faced his fear and overcome it. He had proven to himself and to Captain Ben that he was a capable pilot. Section 9. Wings of Freedom. From that day forward, Cash's confidence soared. He continued to fly, logging more and more hours in the air. He explored the skies around his grandfather's farm. He flew over fields of golden wheat and forests of emerald green. He soared above rivers that glistened like silver ribbons in the sunlight. The X-Air Falcon became his partner in adventure. It was his passport to freedom. With it, he could go anywhere, do anything. He felt a sense of exhilaration every time he took to the skies. Cash had achieved his dream. He had overcome obstacles and faced his fears. He had learned that with determination, courage, and hard work, anything is possible. He was a pilot, and the sky was no longer the limit. It was his playground.